Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We're back with another in context. Today is November 16th. We're about 1 month post this quote unquote ceasefire. I say quote unquote because, as we talked about last time when we discussed Gaza, it was going to be messy. Instead of killing 100 a day, 200 a day, now we're killing 20, 2, 3 a day. If anything, the people are still suffering. So that's why I say quote unquote ceasefire. It's messy and it's hazy. But there are some things happening on the ground we need to discuss post month. In particular, there was a UN resolution this recently happened. I figured we'd pick up with that and we'd discuss that and we continue from there.
Okay. So just a comment about the ceasefire. The UN repertoire for the Palestinian territories is quite right. What the US means by ceasefire is you guys cease, Israel keeps firing. And you can see that in Gaza, you can see that in the West Bank, you can see that in Syria, you can see that in Lebanon. Our rabid dog has the right to bite as much as it wants. You guys do not have the right to kick back. You have just to lie there and let it bite, because otherwise the poor dog is going to be irritated further. That's the colonial mentality of the evil empire. Okay. Let's take this from top. So right now at the Security Council, there are two competing resolutions for quote unquote stabilizing Gaza. There is the second version of an American resolution. To be clear, let's just put this in context. The way the US uses the UN is as a legalization stamp. So just like a con artist would make a scam, and to legalize it, they will create some sort of a fake contract, and then get some half a dollar official to put a stamp on it, a notary on it. The US uses the UN in exactly the same way. So the US has been quote unquote negotiating for the last two years. They have came up with different resolutions. They have made different agreements. They have made the stupid show in Sharm el-Sheikh. And now they are coming back to the UN to put a stamp of approval on this. You read the US proposed resolution, and what it says is, we here, the Security Council, agree to whatever Trump said on September 29 and whatever nonsense Trump did in Sharm el-Sheikh on October 13. And you go and read Trump's statement on September 29 and the proclamation that he signed in Sharm el-Sheikh on October 13, and there is nothing. The Sharm el-Sheikh proclamation is, we're good guys and we're going to do good things. So the Security Council is affirming nothing. The Trump's roadmap of September 29 is just reads like an Israeli wish list. We're going to just bulldoze everything inside. And we are going to disarm those who have been massacred so that they can be massacred again. It's completely bonkers. And nobody in the right mind would ever do that. The US also, by the way, knows that. Okay. However, the Security Council is being asked to put a stamp of approval on this. And the idea is, who can define what is going to be done is Trump, because there is nothing specific in it. There are just some vague goals that we're going to do whatever Israel wants. So what does that mean? Nothing. What they want is a stamp of approval that we own this. Nobody has the right to interfere in this. We decide what's right, we decide what's wrong. And the proposal then goes on into actual implementation. So it says, well, we want to establish the Board of Peace that Trump proposed. And at some point, initially he proposed that his fellow war criminal, Blair, would co-chair it with him. Then he walked it back because there was a lot of resistance to this. And Blair has a very bad history in the region, including the Iraq War, including a previous stint as the representative of the quartet, where he essentially surrendered the West Bank to Israel. He presided over that. So he has a very bad reputation in the region. So Trump actually walked that back. Anyway, so it says we authorize the Board of Peace to do whatever it wants. And the Board of Peace, when you look at it, is actually a return to the mandatory system of the World League of 1919. It says we authorize the Board of Peace to do whatever it feels like. We authorize the Board of Peace to spend money the way it feels. We authorize it to create trust funds. We order the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank to help him in this. And we authorize them to raise a military force to enforce whatever they feel like, under the name of peace and security and all of that nonsense. But this is what the resolution is saying. So what it is proposing is the US gets a mandatory rule in Gaza. When you read the statement and then you read the US officials' comments on it, they are actually saying, well, we're going to occupy Gaza on the cheap. The money is not going to come from the US. It's all going to come from others. And the military forces are not going to come from the US. It's going to come from others. The Russian response has been, well, you're joking. This is nonsense. And the most would accept is a traditional peacekeeping mission in the sense of the modern United Nations, which came after the World League in post 1945, meaning just to enforce the separation of forces and maintaining peace. Where it's going to end, that's what I want to discuss. So, first, a point I want to posit: the US is not serious about what it says. So the Guardian, for example, leaked the military plans of the US, and the military plans call for a force that is made of German, French, British, and other European troops, in addition to a smattering of the US colonial subjects, particularly Indonesia and Pakistan. But at core are the white races, the Europeans. Now, when the Guardian pushed back that you guys are not serious, nobody's going to put forces in there. And it's obviously not serious because actually they are threatening Europe with Russia. So Europe is not about to turn around and send soldiers for them. With the exception of that fascist in Italy, nobody actually is entertaining the idea. So the US isn't serious. And when they pushed back and said, well, actually, it's a complex situation and it is moving very fast. Get a life. You don't know what you're doing. And then the plans continues to say to essentially paint a picture that Israel wants. And the picture is everything that is under Israel control right now would remain under Israel control. And that force, the international force, would come only to help Israel control it. And it would act and work under Israel command. It says shared whatever, but that means Israel command. Through authorization of the Board of Peace. And the rest of Gaza would remain in ruins. Nothing would pass to it. It's not going to be reconstructed. And the idea is we're going to draw those subhumans by dangling meat to them into the other area where we're going to rebuild it, which is completely bonkers. Meaning they couldn't do that under bombs. They tried to do that in southern Gaza when they were bombing northern Gaza. It didn't work. And they know it doesn't work. But the US doesn't mind humoring the Israelis. Because it doesn't mind humoring its rabid dog, so that the rabid dog eventually understands that, well, it doesn't work. And we have to do something else. That's about it. It's exactly similar to what's happening in Lebanon. So in Lebanon and in Syria, Israel is saying, well, we want a situation where we get to hit them whenever we want, and they have to lie down and disarm. And we can always, whenever we feel like it, claim that they haven't and hit them again. And nobody's going to accept that in their right mind. Even the well-known agents of the US, the Lebanese army, wouldn't entertain it. So they are doing what is supposed to be doing, which is we are going to confiscate Hezbollah arms, but within reason. They are not going all the way. Because, well, if they disarm Hezbollah, who is going to stop the Israelis? The Israelis are attacking within reason right now. But if the Lebanon was disarmed because the Lebanese army doesn't have arms. Let's forget about this nonsense. Okay. So, and it has a long tradition of being only used to attack the refugee camps. This is its business, nothing more. So it's not in the business of war. So if they were to disarm, it will get worse because that's Israel's track record. And they figure this out, and they are agents. So nobody in the right mind is going to do this, and the US knows that. But it doesn't mind, letting the rabid dog, bite as much as it wants until eventually either it runs into a wall like it happened in Doha, or it runs out of steam. And then the US comes and settles things. So that's what's going on. And that's why the US keeps saying, well, actually, it's a fluid situation and we're changing our plans. You're making plans you know to be nonsense. Changing what? The US would like the Board of Peace to pass because they would like carte blanche. And I suspect that what it would end up being is much less than this, but a bit more than what the Russians are offering, which is just the plain minimum. Yes.
Where's Turkey's role in this? Because they said they're going to send 2,000 troops.
Well, Israel said we're not going to accept Turkish troops. To see how serious the Israelis are about this, every other day they come out and say, we're not going to accept Turkish troops. Well, if the first time was enough to enforce it, why are the next 10 or 20 times? It's not true. Because one of Israel's problems right now is Netanyahu has made a strategic mistake. Not a tactical, a strategic mistake. He kept trying to chase an unattainable goal, which is squishing the resistance in all of the region, with the strategic goal of expanding Israel's role from a small client to a regional client who has the right to hit anywhere in the Muslim world. However, the negative side of this, the flip side of this is he could not bring it to conclusion. And that meant that the US came in to bring the conclusion. And as a result, the US now is talking about building, of course, with Arab money, a base in southern Israel, in the southern desert in Israel, Naqab, and to man it with its agents, Muslim soldiers. Because the Europeans are not coming. This is nonsense. And that is not something Israel likes, because actually it means that it loses the ability to act at will. So he's getting something. He's still claiming, every other day he comes out and says, and they have the right to attack, and they have the right to kill, and they have the right to do, and they have the right to do this and do that. He is trying to enforce this, and the US says, no, you don't have the right to do that. But it's big. So he has laid a claim, and the US has allowed him to do things that has created a de facto acceptance that Israel is a regional power. And the Arab Zionists are actually promoting that Israel has to be integrated as a regional power in the Middle East. On the other hand, he has taken something that was strategically better for Israel, which is Gaza was just an Israeli colony. Yes, it was the jail was Gaza wide, but Gaza is a very small enclave. It was a regular jail. It's a large jail, but it was a regular open air jail. Right now, he has somebody else supervising his colonial action. That's not strategically something he'd like. He got a lot more, I think. So in the bargain, he's getting a lot more, but he's getting something he doesn't like.
How about the rumor that the US met with Abu Shahab? Yes.
Yeah. So that was an very interesting episode. This started with Al Arabiya, which is Saudi-owned mouthpiece, claiming that they have information that the US envoys visiting Israel have met with Israel's militiaman Abu Shabab. This is a guy that Israel uses to kill people in in Gaza and hides him in the area that it controls out of Gaza beyond the so-called yellow line. Then, in very classic Cold War propaganda methods, the Israeli propaganda tools picked up Al Arabiya's report and started propagating it worldwide. Interestingly, the War Department picked one of these propaganda outlets. It claims to be open source intelligence, Postnet 613. You can find it online. And had forced it to walk back the claim. So the War Department tweeted at them that this is untrue. And the Israeli propagandist had to go back and say, yes, it's not true, which was very interesting. To me, this looked like Israel trying to give credence to the leak in The Guardian about creating two zones in Gaza, a zone under Israeli mixed international control and a destroyed zone beyond the yellow line. They call the zone under Israeli control green and the other zone as red, to leave in ruins. So this was actually an attempt to create that, because this is not the first time that Israel has tried to push these kinds of narratives. Before that, they published at least one op-ed in the Washington Post where they had one of these characters like Abu Shabab, their militiamen, write about Israel is doing great beyond the yellow line. Actually, schools are opening and Palestinians are going to school under Israeli occupation. That has continued since then, eradicating all buildings in the area where the fake op-ed published with a straight face in the Washington Post claimed that peace was reigning and people were going back to normal life. So this is an Israeli narrative, and the US is humoring it to a certain degree. Meaning they're willing, for example, for the leaked planning reports in The Guardian to be leaked, and they're saying, well, actually, they are just undercutting the saying it's a fluid situation, and that nonsense. But when it comes to the point of degrading US status to the point where it's coming down to meet with a very, very, very lowly agent who is completely unacceptable to anybody in Gaza, like Abu Shabab, they don't want to have anything to do with it, and they force the Israelis to walk it back. Okay. So yes, they like the rabid dog a lot, but the rabid dog has very bad manners, and even his master occasionally has to hit it on the bow. Just a last comment. Within this situation, it is very interesting to observe that some Muslims are so stupid that they spend the morning complaining about Israeli attacks on the Syrian side of the borders, and spend the night glorifying the Israeli attacks on the Lebanese side of the borders. And I don't know, how can one be this stupid, sectarian, and stupid blind? There is also the reverse of this. There is Hezbollah, who spends the morning complaining about Israel's attacks in South Lebanon, and spends the nights glorifying the Israeli militiamen in Suwaida. And in between, meets with Israeli man in Lebanon, Wa'am Wahab. Sectarianism is a serious disease that destroys one's aqidah and eliminates one's brains and eyes.
Thank you, brothers.
وإياكم. السلام عليكم.
Masana.